The U.S. Supreme Court case Graham v. Connor, handed down in 1989, is the use of force standard in the United States. It does not allow for 20/20 hindsight. No Monday morning quarterbacking. And here are the 3 Graham factors. This is what courts look at in determining whether the use of force was excessive or unreasonable. There's severity of the crime, whether the suspect was actively resisting, and whether the suspect poses an immediate threat to the officer or others. Remember these 3 Graham factors. It's all 3. Court looks at all 3. So we need to remember the 3 Graham factors as we get into the video that shows, once again, the beatdown of the black man by, I think it was 4 officers from the Muncie, Indiana Police Department. Was their use of force, especially Officer Moore, that psychopath? Well, anyway, I guess I'm kind of poisoning the well a little bit. But whether or not the use of force that was used by Officer Moore was reasonable under the circumstances.
A woman pulled out her phone and began filming when Muncie police officers were arresting a man in this Southside Taco Bell parking lot. That video now has more than 12,000 shares on Facebook and people questioning the officers' use of force.
That cop's punched me, man.
The call came in from bystanders afraid an intoxicated man was going to get behind the wheel. When officers approached 36-year-old Joshua Douglas, he ran and led them on a foot chase until they pinned him to the ground like you see here. The officer commanding Douglas to stop resisting arrest and show his hands. When Douglas refused, you see the officer begin to punch him several times.
That's not true. I don't know why she said that he refused to show his hands, other than she's just ignorant of what she's looking at.
In 2018, after Douglas' arrest, former Chief Joe Winkle told WRTV that the punching was not excessive.
I don't think so. I mean, I think those punches, as long as you're telling him what you want him to do and where they were thrown, that's how we're trained.
You punch me in my eyes, your head, your teeth.
Looks like the poor Chiefy Winkle there could use an anatomy lesson. He doesn't know where his head is, but we do.
Muncie Police Chief Joseph Winkle defends this use of force, calling it, quote, a textbook arrest.
If that's a textbook arrest, then they really have problems in Muncie, Indiana. You want to talk about who's really the problem? I want you to remember that last name, Winkle. Winkle. I don't know if you heard me, Winkle.
Officer Alex Moore's body camera is rolling.
Now we're going to focus on the psycho instigator, Officer Alex Moore, and take a look at the assault, some background information on him, how it was he was even able to be an officer, let alone stay an officer. Thin blue line, thin blue line, thin blue line. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to plug in the 3 Graham factors and the totality of the circumstances. You'll see. You'll see. Oh, Chief Winkle. Chief Winkle. You're a liar.
Rolling as he approaches the scene.
Put your phone down. 12. Hit it. Phone down. Real quick. Don't put your hands on your back, okay? Put your hand down. Don't pull away from me. Don't. Stay strong. Put your hands down. Get your stuck. You hear me? Get your stuck. You hear me? You hear me?
I thought Winkle said that he was being punched in the shoulder.
Get on your stomach.
Everybody involved in this, right up to the chief and all, are all a bunch of liars. But you know what doesn't lie? Is the body camera. How many hands do you see there from the suspect? Pretty sure he only has 2. How about you, Winkle? Of course, that's right. He sucks at anatomy. And what's that cop holding in his hand? No, not that. I'm talking about that. It looks like an ID. I mean, even in the middle of a fight, they just can't give up ID. And where's that hand? It's up on the squad. Third punch. Where's the right hand? And the officer on the left side of the suspect? He's got his arm. He's got his arm. There's no arm or hand or anything under his body. Well, look at there. Moore actually has that right hand.
Give me your hands. Put your hand up.
Officer Moore, the officer seen punching Douglas, says in his official report he approached after finding a bag of amphetamines and said Douglas tensed and continued to resist. I gave multiple loud verbal commands for Joshua to get onto his stomach, but he refused to do so. Uncovered Officer Alex Moore, the officer seen doing the punching, had been disciplined twice before. His Muncie police personnel file shows he received a written reprimand in August 2016 for engaging in a physical altercation while off duty. A year later, he was suspended for 80 hours without pay for his role in a domestic dispute that took place while Moore was off duty. Yet Officer Moore kept his job until February 14th of this year. He resigned from the department nearly 3 years after the Douglas incident and after WRTV obtained the footage.
We started with Graham v. Connor. We're going to end with Graham v. Connor. Although I'd really recommend that you hang out till the end, very end. Anyway, there are 3 Graham factors. Remember, these are the 3 factors that were taken into account to judge whether a use of force incident was reasonable or unreasonable considering the totality of the circumstances. Severity of the crime, what was that? That was public intoxication and possession of methamphetamine, which by themselves, they're not violent. They're not violent crimes. In fact, you can have possession of methamphetamine and not be tweaked. And he sure didn't act tweaked to me. Was he actively resisting? Not when he was getting the beatdown, he wasn't. So every one of those punches from Moore were both unreasonable and excessive. Unreasonable and excessive. This one wasn't even close. Guys, I put this together in about 3 hours, and I went into it knowing only the information from the first video. Well, I've got some news for you. And we go back to Chief Winkle, good old Chief Winkle the liar. You've heard the saying that the apple doesn't fall far from the tree? Yep, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
Chase Winkle is one of 4 former Muncie officers indicted for the crimes. Tonight, Sierra Putman joins us live in studio with some of the new details that she's gathered today. And I understand, Sierra, that he is now the 2nd officer to plead guilty in this case.
And, you know, he took a plea deal, and now Chase Winkle is just waiting to find out what his sentence is going to be. He could face up to 100 years in prison. Now, this is some video 13 News has in the archive of Winkle. The 35-year-old is accused of abusing 7 men and boys that he arrested or helped with arrest between 2018 and 2019. The details are just jaw-dropping. Winkle admitted to slapping, punching, kicking, and even tasing these people while they were unarmed, either restrained or handcuffed. One man had multiple facial fractures that required surgery. Winkle literally broke this man's face. The former officer told the court he knew what he was doing at the time was wrong, but still he did it and repeatedly wrote false reports to cover it up.